Today we are going to look at this Nintendo Switch. It's got a bunch of problems. One of them is there are no screws in the back. So that means that somebody has been inside this before. And that's among other things. That's today on Tech Guy Life. So I got this Nintendo Switch, and it's in pretty rough shape. Someone has removed all of the plastic fins that were on the heatsink here, so the case is in pretty bad shape. And there are no screws, so the back comes right off, and there's no kickstand. Yeah. But its biggest problem, it is stuck on this screen because the left Joy-Con will not connect. So we push the right one in. You can see when I click it in, you'll see a little thing that pops up here showing that it clicked in. But when I do the left side, nothing. And it even feels different when you click in the left side versus the right side. We're going to have to refurbish this and get it working again. So what I did was I picked up a new set of rails. And that goes for on the Switch side in order for these things to slide into, which is typically the problem. But I also picked up a complete kit for the Joy-Cons themselves. It's got new thumbsticks, new sliders for theirs, new contacts, the whole shebang. So this will hopefully fix any of the problems that we've got here. But of course, the other problem that we're going to have is the fact that it has no screws and the case has been modified, suggests that someone has been in this before. And who knows what we're going to find. In fact, I don't know if you can see that, but this screw is tightened down so hard, the SD card thing is bent. So, yeah, this one is going to be interesting. Luckily, I think that's just a modular part that is easy to replace. Before we can test anything, we need to get past this screen. So let's go ahead and start tearing this down. So it looks like somebody was in here because they did not put the thermal paste back on correctly. You're supposed to clean that off before applying some new stuff. So first thing, let's disconnect the battery. So the reason why the Joy-Con connector is not working is because it's not connected. So you can see this is the cable here. So let me get something pointy. So this is the cable that comes from the Joy-Con connector. It's supposed to go along here and then come out here and plug into this connector. And it's not doing that. So of course it's not going to work. Peoples. Okay, so I took the one screw out of the board here and unscrewed the rail. So now we're going to see if we can get this ribbon out. And there it is. So let's quickly put this back together and see if the rail works. All right, let's try a quick test. Okay. There it goes. Unbelievable. Well, isn't that just silly? Someone just didn't hook up the rail again. And now it's fine. It's still loose, but that may be the connections inside the Joy-Con itself and not the actual rails. So now I don't know if I should bother replacing the rails or not, considering it's working just fine. Touchscreen's a little crazy, but that's also got a screen protector on it, which could be the whole cause of the problem, but I'll deal with that later. So if this ribbon connector was not connected for some time, this battery is going to be completely dead. So I'm going to have to leave it charging for a while in order to test the controller's functionality. So what I thought I would do is, in the meantime, I'm going to do the refurb on the Joy-Cons themselves and try to get them up and running perfectly, and then let it charge for a while, and then come back and see if the Joy-Cons are working fine. So let's take these off right now and get this out of the way, and let's refurb these Joy-Cons and get them up to snuff. So this refurb pack came with your, usual bunch of useless tools. It came with new buttons, new metal little of the locking mechanisms. Apparently this is a good mod to do. It came with new thumbsticks and more useless tools. Although that might actually not be useless. And new rails for the Joy-Con side. So I'm not going to show everything when I take apart these Joy-Cons, because I cannot get a close enough shot to show you exactly what I am doing, especially if my hands are getting in the way. But I'm going to put links to ifixit's teardown guides and repair manuals, because that is what I am using in order to guide myself through this assembly. And you should too, because their stuff is a primo. So once you get it open, it's not a whole lot to do after that. But what I am going to do is we need to prep the rails with these new metal clip things. So what you have to do is, these are the new rails that came in the package. So you just undo this screw, then remove this little metal cover like that. And here is the clip. And now there is a spring. Right there is a spring. So when you take this out, don't lose that. So when I removed it, I just as I lifted it up, I put my finger over the end so that the spring wouldn't go flying all over the place and, to never be found. But here is the metal replacement for the plastic one. So doesn't look like they're side specific, so it doesn't matter which one you use. So we're just going to take the spring, put it in there, and then put this whole thing back in the spot without losing the spring or having it fall out, which we already did. Haha, found it. It fell on the floor, but I found it. Wah. This is why I usually stick to retro stuff, because it's bigger and you can drop things and lose them and not totally be gone forever. So there are little slide-in spots for the metal piece. Probably best, if you're old like me, to use a magnifier. So there, now we have our new metal clip installed on the new rail. So when you get these new rails, you have to transpose over all the buttons and all the little LED lights, or the plastic pieces that make the LED lights shine through better. But that's why these part kits are not super expensive, because they don't include all of the parts that you would need to have a complete thing. They just give you what you need to replace. I think I'll do the joystick replacement next. So we just got to lift this latch, pull out the ribbon. Well, we'll pull out the ribbon once we get everything unscrewed. I'm going to assume these are going to need to be replaced, because they're pretty worn. The old ones are pretty worn down. Like, seriously, why would you run a ribbon cable right over a screw? So I've reconnected the ribbon cables. I had to do that under a magnifier because there was no way I was going to be able to see them otherwise. I think I have everything reconnected. So now I think we can start putting it back together. So the first thing would be putting the battery tray back in, the mid frame as they call it. This little tiny screw is used to hold in the rail, but there are supposed to be two of them. One of them is missing, which again, kind of not surprising based on what I've found so far on this switch. So I'm going to screw that one in and see if I've got something else that will hold that one in. Or maybe it's not supposed to. I should verify. I'm going to double check that with ifixit. Nope, not missing a screw. Whew, that's good. I just don't want any more missing screws because these are really small. So now we have to put the battery back in. So we will connect the battery first. Like that. And pop her back in. And this should all just go back together. Like that. All right, so I just took this apart twice to fix mistakes that I had made. First, I had found that I put this button in 90 degrees too far one way, and it wasn't actually in its thing properly, so it couldn't press. Then I found out that I had forgotten to take the battery button out of the original slider bar from the Joycon. So I had to take all of that apart again in order to put the button in. But there, we got there, no problem. So now that this one is done, I want to see if we get a nice click when we slide it in to the existing rail now. Yeah, we do. The right Joy-Con, of course, has different features and a different layout, and it makes it a lot more difficult to work with, mostly because of this button. The ribbon cable on it is a lot shorter than the left one, but we should be able to work with it. So I did all the repairs on the right Joy-Con, and you didn't see any of it because my camera overheated and died. I really need to look at getting a more reliable recording setup this year because that happens way too often and I lose way too much footage. But anyway, did the same thing to the right one as I did to the left, and now they're both working. I plugged it in and left it charging for a while, and now they are both fully charged and appear to be functional. Both of them now have a really good click and are connected really solid to the switch body. So I don't think I need to replace the actual rails on the switch. But now we have to test everything else to see what's going on. We have no screws for the back. So I ordered a new back plate with a kickstand and everything. So we're going to replace that because oddly enough, it was just as much to buy a screw set as it was to buy a whole new back. So go figure. I had already tested all the controller buttons work perfectly. I just tested that when I didn't realize it wasn't recording. Let's test out the touchscreen, because when it was low in battery and the controller wasn't hooked up correctly, it was doing some pretty weird stuff. Like the touchscreen was just going nuts, going click, 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 all the making the touch sounds. So let's test the touchscreen. So it seems to be not working in the middle. See how the touch is it disappears? That means the touch is failing. So part of this digitizer is not working. So I wonder, it does have a screen protector on it. I wonder if I should just take that off, clean the screen, and try again. And get another one of these some other time. Test the touchscreen again. No, it definitely does not work in the middle. So there is a problem with this digitizer. That's not good, because that's not a super easy thing to replace. All right, so we have a problem with the digitizer, and it's not working in the center. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and clean and check the ribbon cable for the digitizer, which is here. Before we go and buy a replacement digitizer, I'd like to know whether or not it might be. This is the kind of the tough thing. Is it here? Is it there, which is the connection from this board here to the actual motherboard? Or is it the digitizer itself? So there are a few possible fault points when it comes to the digitizer. So the first thing I want to do, let's take a look at this and try to clean it up, see if there's any problems with the ribbon cable, and maybe it just needs to be reseated. Someone was obviously in here and didn't put this back in correctly, so there's no reason why that wouldn't be wrong too. Well, in fact, that's not even screwed down properly. So does that mean that maybe this is not seated correctly, which is a possibility? Ribbon cable looks okay. Doesn't appear to be any problems with it. So I'm just going to give it a quick clean, put some deoxit in the cable connector there, and let's reseat it and see if that just suddenly fixes it. Should be able to tell pretty quick because I don't think the button works. Yeah, see? Still can't press the center. Looking into things a little further, it appears that there is some water damage or liquid damage on the cartridge slot. So we've got this nice stain here, and the headphone jack has got a lot of discoloration on it. So I'm wondering if this is the source of our digitizer problem. The other thing that I found was the fan is missing a screw right here. And if this was moving like that, it could have pulled this connector right off. So maybe this was not connected correctly in order to send the digitizer signals through to the switch. So not quite sure where to go in terms of what parts to buy. I'm going to go with a hunch, and I'm going to say that this is the problem with the digitizer. Just the water damage or the liquid damage that seems to be on here just is not sitting right with me, even though visually everything looks okay. I'm going to go with this. I think this is the problem. So I went and got a replacement one. Great thing is, these are easy to replace. And this is much easier to replace than the actual digitizer. So if I'm right and this is the source of the problem, then this is going to be a way easier fix than changing the digitizer on here. I'm gonna put this fan screw back in. I was looking for a replacement and I couldn't find anything. So now we just have to connect the digitizer. Okay, the new card slot little board is installed. So it gets connected there, got the screws back in, and the digitizer ribbon cable is back in. So I don't have the heatsink on, so we're going to do this as fast as possible. Okay, so before, there was no touch in the middle, so I could not do this from the touchscreen. Hey, it's working again. Oh, my hunch was right. And thank goodness that was right. I did not want to have to change this digitizer because it is a job and a half to get that off of there. Test touchscreen. Look at that. That is working perfectly now. Whew. So let's get this cleaned off, reinstalled, some new thermal paste, and we're good to go, I think. All right, we got our thermal paste is all cleared off there. Got it cleaned off on the heatsink, so I'm going to put on some new stuff. I don't have any good thermal paste right now, so I'm just going to use whatever the heck this stuff is. I don't know if that's any good or not, but I have a big tube of it, and I don't know why. And that's probably way too much, but you're going to criticize it in the comments anyway. Whatever. That is done. So now I think we can run a better test of the whole system. Okay, so you can see the SD card is showing 14 gigs free space, so that SD card adapter is working still, so that's good, so we don't have to replace that. Yep, touchscreen is still working, so everything is good there. Excellent. So the only thing we haven't tried is the actual game slot. Let's do that. I acquired a test game. What do we got here? Lego DC Super Villains. So let's try this in the card slot. And it pops right up. Perfect. All right, the games look to be playing just fine. So the game slot works, volume control works. Everything's working. I'm just going to do a quick test of the headphone jack. Yep, working fine. Time to button this thing back up, put it all back together. So we have to take the SD card adapter off, and time to reinstall the shield. Oh, actually, I got to clean that thermal paste off first. Someone had just decided to leave the original thermal paste and then just add more, which is not how you do that. I don't remember if I showed it, but whoever had worked on this before, when they had reassembled it, this screw here, they had actually screwed into the motherboard and put the heat shield on top. And the screw was pushing up on the heat shield because it was underneath it. So I fixed that this time. Since the back panel it came with has no kickstand and came with no screws, I opted to get a new back panel. Okay, so we do need to steal some pieces from the original back plate, mainly the cartridge cover. So that apparently unscrews there. And that comes off. It's in two pieces. And then we most likely need this bracket that holds in the kickstand. Okay, so the dumbest thing that I've ever seen is that this back plate, brand new, has everything you need except for the bar that goes on the kickstand. So I can't install the kickstand until I get another replacement kickstand that has the bar. So let's just skip to the chase here. I did not use that back panel that I bought. Well, actually, I did. And I had recorded the whole end of this video and had used the back panel, and it sucked. The plastic that they used degraded really, really quickly, and the screw holes, after taking it out once, wouldn't hold the screws anymore. So I packed it all up and shipped that thing back to Amazon. But what I did do was refurbished the existing panel. I found another screw set that was cheaper than the back panel, and I bought the replacement kickstand. So now I have all the screws in. I also went back in and fixed that fan. The extra screw that I needed came in the screw set. The only problem that I had was this top screw was a little bit broken on the inside, so I had to use a slightly bigger thread, but it's perfectly fine. So yeah, I gotta live with this without the fins. I don't know if you can see that. There it is. So yeah, there's no fins in there, but even with the new back panel, that would have still been a problem. I'd have to replace the whole front in order to get that back, and that's not worth it. Completely refurbished, working perfectly. The only problem I've got is holy crap, what happened to the prices of Switch games? These things are just insane now. But I guess that's another issue that I'll have to deal with down the road. And, maybe next summer, hopefully people will be tired of their Switches and they'll start getting rid of their games at yard sales, and I can capitalize. Let's go over all the things that we did to this bad boy. We completely refurbished both Joy-Cons, gave them new thumbsticks, new rails, everything. We fixed the disconnected rail on the inside. That's where we actually started this whole project. We fixed the digitizer by replacing the game card slot, because, why wouldn't you run the digitizer cabling through a secondary piece? That just makes sense, doesn't it, Nintendo? This is done. It's all working. And if you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. And apparently there is some sort of like boost button on the mobile app now. So if you're watching this on mobile, go ahead, hit that button or something. My wife told me it existed, so I gotta trust her, right? So we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.